Sorry, Mr. Tellez.
Did you ever look at someone else and think if only you had their life, you'd have it all?
Look at how cool this is. Signed by all 5 band members.
A soul of Detroit.
You know what the sickest thing is about you, little man? You fantasize about being somebody else, singing somebody else's songs. Oh, maybe if I get really lucky, I'll get to grow up and listen to Air Supply and wear jackboots like you. What's wrong with Air Supply?
You asked interrogator, try to get out of my face. It's gone. What are you doing? What are you doing? That is not paid for by them. That is paid for by the people of Detroit.
You might be qualified, ML.
I'm not qualified for this job.
Let me tell you something. You want to go right now? Okay? You want to go right now, Al?
Hey kids, it's your old pal ML Elric coming to you with a hot off the presses edition of ML Soul of Detroit. Our intro rock star was fiddled with a little bit by Mark Fellhauer, who bears an uncanny resemblance to Glenn Guglia, who was the brother of, or brother-in-law, I think, of Mark Wahlberg there. Remember Glenn Guglia from Wedding Singer?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Julia Guglia.
Yeah, that was one of the rare Glenn Guglia appearances.
What a very weird reference.
I always liked Glenn Guglia. I didn't know why he didn't go further.
Reference.
He was a great guy. And Sean Windsor rejoins us in studio. Now, a lot of people have been inquiring about Sean's health. A few people have sent small donations inquiring about Sean's health. We're glad to see Sean looks better, but he says he'll feel a lot better if more donations come in. So please continue to tithe.
So I should not be in the studio.
No, you should be.
It's wrecking your fundraising apparatus.
No, if you could, I was going to say if you could look a little more haggard, but I don't think that's possible.
I'm more of a spectral presence.
Yeah, so the
not really here.
From death's door to Drew's basement, Sean Windsor's here, but he could die if you don't.
Well, it's
generously.
nice and toasty and smoky in here, right?
Yeah, it's super hot in here, man. Yeah.
So our special guest, when I tell people that he's a published author, that he was born in Grosse Pointe, but Detroit's most successful media figure, they usually think they're talking about me. Now they say, who's the unemployed guy who only works for a couple hours on Tuesday? And then they are talking about me. This week, it is the one and only J.T. Harding, rock star, songwriter, and man about town, a boulevardier. When he's not wearing his stormtrooper jacket, he rocks the leopard skin. Or is that cheetah?
Do not adjust your computers. I'm really dressed this way. Listen, if you're in your car, honk your horn. If you're at work, drum on your desk. And if you're still in bed, dance on your back, because I'm JT Harding and you're on Soul of Detroit, Detroit.
And a very, very sweet electrifying Mojo reference. So JT knows everything about the Midnight Funk Association, the Dread Card. He's been there, he's done that, and he's put it all in his new book, which is just released today, I believe.
Today, baby. Party like a rock star. You can get it in your hot, steaming fingertips. And you probably don't know my name. You don't know my face, but you do know my songs. I've been very fortunate to write #1 songs for Blake Shelton, Keith Urban, Kenny Chesney, co-wrote Smile with the great Uncle Cracker, Goo Goo Dolls, Jonas Brothers, all over the map. I didn't know anyone in the music business. I used to just stand outside of WRAF. That's why the cover of my book has little WRAF stickers on it. And it's great to be here, ML, and to your whole team. What's happening? I had to stay up all night to get up this early. I'm down in Nashville, but it's good to be here. Woo!
But and he is still up. They serve a lot of coffee there. It's not the rock and roll lifestyle.
Well, this is awesome because
Nashville, Jesus and coffee. Yeah, they think Smokey and the Bandit is a documentary down here. I get in a lot of trouble.
JT, whatever you do, please keep interrupting Mike. This is awesome. That was the shortest intro we've ever had in the history of this podcast, thanks to you.
Wow, it's so good to have Sean back. Before we sell some books for JT, we gotta sell some product for our sponsors, who are the ones who make it possible for us to be here. And first and foremost is our friend Luke Nowacki, who sponsors all our Red Shovel Network shows. He's the guy who's going to make sure that when you retire, you can do it with style.
Yeah, because overreaction is not the strategy for the long-term investors. That's why you need to call Luke at Pinnacle Wealth, 663-4748. Stocks, bonds, how do you allocate your 401k? What is a 401k? How do I get my company to have one? Get advice, get a strategy. Call Luke Nowacki at Pinnacle Wealth, 248-663-4748.
Because when you call Luke, he'll make it all about you, sweetheart.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Royal Alliance Associates Inc. Member FINRA SIPC. Royal Alliance Associates Inc. is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Royal Alliance Associates Inc.
And of course, we're grateful to David Hall. That was not written by JT, by the way. But
no, that sounds like Uncle Cracker on a case of Red Bull. What was that? Jeez,
maybe with a rubber band around his sack may put him in a different state of mind. But that's the feds for you. Hall Financial, also a sponsor of all our Red Shovel Network shows. They will save you a bundle, and while interest rates are going up, there's still a chance to save with David Hall.
Yeah, the most client-focused mortgage company in the industry. They're not going to cover the cost of your appraisal. It can save you up to $750. Home values are just shooting up in the last 2 years, and rates are going up now too. So you might want to check them out. Take the first step before you go buy that house. Call hallfirst.com. That's callhallfirst.com, or call them up on your phone, 866-CALL-HALL. I mean, how many 5-star reviews do they have? Over 5,000 of them. 2 of them from ML.
That's right. They did a great deal for me. When you give them a call, ask for my man, Dan, and tell all our sponsors when you do business with them that ML sent you. And before when JT and I were growing up, Where's the Beef was a big thing.
Or you can be like me, kids. Keep your money where you can see it, hanging in your closet. Thank you very much. Wow. Yes. Oh, Where's the Beef? What a great commercial that was, ML.
Yeah, it was. Well, if you're looking for the best beef you can find, there's the Butchery in Sylvan Lake. It's thebutcherysl.com. Their phone number is 248-682-2697. That's 248-682-COWS. They're open Wednesday through Sunday. They have great meats and sweet treats. Great little boutique grocery store, too. You can get some craft beers there. Pretty much anything you need to put on a great feed is right there at the Butchery in Sylvan Lake. So check them out.
Sound effects. That's what was missing. Sound effects. Jeez.
Where's the beef? That's right.
What's next? A Bazooki ad? Wow, you guys got everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Bazooki, where they got nothing to hide. If you got enough money, you have to take some of that money out of the closet if they're going to take something off of their behind over there at the Bazooki. But we don't. This is a family show. We don't cotton to that kind of business.
Yeah, right. We'll take it
here.
Unless they reach out to us at mlsolvedetroit@gmail.com and offer us a handsome fee. So JT, I've not seen JT since high school. I was on the staff of the Tower, which was our student newspaper, and I heard about a little local punk band that had gotten some airplay on college radio on CJAM FM, which at the time was way down on the dial. Now they're 99.1, still playing great music out of the University of Windsor. And these guys, God, he must have been a freshman or a sophomore, like they're getting airplay. And so I did a story on them, and it was Dirty Tricks with the TRIXX because, they're kind of edgy with the double X. If they were triple X, we couldn't have put them in the paper, or at least not any pictures. And that was kind of the last I thought about him. I mean, you saw him in the Battle of the Bands. JT and his band were outstanding, but it was Grosse Pointe. It was the 80s. So I think some probably really weak Spandau Ballet knockoff won that contest, but they electrified the scene. I did not see JT for years until I went to a funeral for a friend, and I got introduced to this kind of wild-looking dude who was, as hard to believe today, was very low-key. And we were introduced. It's like, okay, yeah, fine, whatever. And then we ended up sitting in the pews together because we didn't know that many people at the funeral. So, it's kind of like a wedding where the 2 single guys get put at the same table, the 2 old ladies are at the same table. And we started talking, and he said he had a book coming out. And I said, oh, wow. And he started telling me about the book. I said, oh, shit, you're JT Harding, which to me meant a lot. But what I know now is it means a lot to everybody in the music industry. So, JT, it's good to see you again. Second time now in, 50 years?
Oh, great to be here. Well, you're skipping some of the amazing parts of the story. First of all, the first Battle of Bands, of course, I won because I studied MTV when other kids were studying algebra. Yeah, the year you saw us, we came in second, but I couldn't let it stand. So then we won the next year, then won the South Talent Show. But here's the best part about it. When I signed my book deal, I knew that I wanted there to be a picture of me breaking the guitar on the cover. So I went up to our cottage in northern Michigan, And I've saved every newspaper article, every song list I ever made, all of these things, because it took me years and years to make it. You know, my heart's been broken more than the ice cream machine at McDonald's because of the music business, but I did not quit. But anyway, so I couldn't find this picture. I kept going up north from Nashville. I knew the picture was there. I was losing sleep trying to find this picture. It took me months. I finally found this picture without a photo credit on it. Fast forward to the funeral for our great friend Ted Metri's mom. I'm sitting next to a guy. We both had masks on. I said, I'm JT. And you leaned over. I mean, this is like a bad after school special. You leaned over and said, I took a picture of you in high school. You were breaking a guitar. And dude, it was like someone poured cold water down my shirt. I just got chills. And I was like, I've been looking for that picture for months. I just found it. And here you are sitting next to me.
Wow.
Now it's the cover of my book. I mean, it's a great story. So thank you for taking that picture. And, you know, in the photo, I'm wearing leg warmers. My clothes are ripped up and I'm smashing a guitar. As you can tell, I hate attention, but what a picture. What a picture.
Yeah. And, you know, I think I figured out why they sat us together. All the guys with initials for first names got stuck in that one pew, I guess. But so the story.
Or all the guys that really love themselves. You know,
yeah. No, I have a room in my house full of mirrors because I like to be surrounded by a winner. But no, seriously, ML's like, you're so subdued. It was a funeral,
I like
ML. The last place I want to be the center of attention is at a funeral.
Yeah, no, that's true because the guy with the best suit on is usually dead. But
yeah.
So the story,
and that's why I mean, really quick. That's why I wrote the book, because it's so everything today is so perfect. Everyone's pictures and everybody's posts. But growing up in Detroit, you know, I didn't know anybody in the music business, and I was enamored with MTV. It was like Dorothy in black and white Kansas going into Oz when I saw MTV. Of course, I loved Riff already. I loved Wheels. And so I moved out to LA. I didn't have any kind of roadmap. I didn't know anybody. I stole a FedEx jacket. Well, I borrowed it and walked into record companies like Obi-Wan Kenobi, walking into the Death Star. And I put my cassette into every single mailbox every record company mailbox in LA. And that's why I wrote the book. I wish it was the book that someone had written when I was trying to get in the music business, because anyone can do it. I'm living proof. So that's that. Yeah.
Wow.
like
what a hustle.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, he got killed, but he came back. He came back, and the Force was stronger in this one.
Wait, did that work? I mean, that's a pretty good hustling story. Did it?
You know what, Mark? A lot of people are saying, you know, well, you didn't get any attention from that, did you? And I said, well, I did actually. The cops were after me for weeks. Well, I was so nice. Mark, it's a great question. And by the way, I made my first demo tape with money that I won on VH1 Rock and Roll Jeopardy.
Yeah.
Because one thing about Grosse Pointe, you know, everyone works hard there, but no, my parents didn't give me money to move LA. They were mortified. So I was so naive that this could happen. I got a job at Tower Records on Sunset, this huge record store. I thought, well, people deliver records here. They must know the people that make the records. Every celebrity came in. It's all in my book. Springsteen, Michael Jackson, Kurt Cobain. Everybody came in. I gave everybody my demo. And one day a record executive came in. I knew his name from a magazine. I gave him my tape, and that's how I got my first record deal. And then they dropped me from that deal. But you know what? I just had to keep going and keep going. I ended up working for Linkin Park, as you guys know. And yeah, it's all in the book, all these wacky stories. It's like colorful characters, twists and turns. It's like a movie. We just don't know the plot, but that's all right.
Did you get Final Jeopardy right?
I didn't. You want to know the question?
Yeah, I do.
All right, listen at home, kids. I was up by so many points that there was no way I could lose, so I only bet $1. This is the question. I remember it verbatim from VH1 Rock and Roll Jeopardy. The category is women singers. She had 10 top 10 hits in the 80s. She is a member of the Royal British Army, and she starred in the biggest movie of 1978. Who is it?
Diana Ross?
Dunk.
British Army.
Tina, no. So they'd have to be British, right? Do they have to be British?
Yeah.
It's not Kim Wilde. She only had one big hit.
Olivia Newton-John.
Oh, because of Australia. Balls.
Yeah.
That's a tough
Yeah,
question.
I know. Not only
She's part of the Commonwealth.
Not only are the criminals there, they have future pop stars. Yeah. So I got it wrong. So the movie was Grease and a lot of hits and yeah, but I'm glad you asked me that. I got that one wrong. No one ever seems to get it. Yeah.
Yeah, that is hard, man.
Totally. Well, I love being on game shows. There's two things I never turn down: sex or a chance to be on TV. Thank you.
No, we're putting you on TV, just so we're clear. This is again family show. So some of the people who JT has written with are Uncle Kracker, Smile, Kenny Chesney, Somewhere With You, Bar at the End of the World, Keith Urban, Somewhere in My Car. Got a lot of somewheres in these song titles. Blake Shelton, Sangria, Jake Owens, Alone With You, and Darius Rucker's Beers and Sunshine.
Yes, and I wrote, my best songs are co-written. I wrote that with Darius, Beers and Sunshine, of course, Smile. I wrote with Uncle Cracker. He was chain smoking. My eyes were as red as the Netflix logo by the end of it. But we wrote like 4 or 5. He didn't know I was from Detroit. He had just heard some songs that I had made a demo of, and our friend Ted Metry again gave it to him. And we went up to Cracker's Cottage and we wrote like 4 or 5 probably so-so songs. I'd never had a hit song before. I was just so excited to be there. And on the last day, I'll never forget it. Like the light from heaven, Cracker just said, "What about a song called Smile?" And so we started it and he came up with the best line. Cracker said, "Cooler than the flip side of my pillow." Now I had never heard that line before. And here's what's so hard about songwriting, to come up with a lyric that is so simple that everyone knows what you're saying, but you've never heard before. It's kind of like when you see a great comedian, Dave Chappelle says something funny and you're listening and you're like, oh my gosh, he's talking about me. That's what I try to do in songwriting. And it sounds simple, but it's not. But, Cracker really, really changed my life. And I just give him all the credit in the world. He actually texted me recently. He said, "Man, thank goodness for Smile, JT. My little boy's kindergarten is as expensive as my daughter's college."
So how do you co-write a song? I mean, what are people looking for when they call you up? Are you a song doctor, or are you an idea man, or are you good with hooks? I mean, what is it?
You know what I'd say? Songs are like sausages. Don't watch them being made. Just enjoy them when they're done. So here's how we do it. In Nashville, songwriting is a full contact sport. We write down there 5 days a week. I always come prepared. So I have tons of titles in my phone. You get titles from movies, from breakups, from makeups, from books. And I just have titles in my phone and I come in and they have ideas, everyone. And then it's like a think tank and we just kind of kick ideas around. This is not a joke. My idea for Darius was, the only BS I need is bikinis and sunshine, because I think I heard some girl say that somewhere. And I thought it's already a t-shirt waiting to happen. But Darius is not a superstar by accident. So we started working on it. I'd never met him before. And he said, what if it was more universal? What if it was the only BS I need is beers and sunshine? That happened about an hour into the write. And I was just like, that's so much better. So that's what writing a song is like. You're just kind of kicking the ideas around, kind of waiting for lightning to strike. Sometimes they come fast, sometimes they don't, but it's the magic of how it happens, the mystery, how it happens is what keeps you in love with it, because you never know what's going to happen. I've written a lot of bad songs, but you have to get to the good ones.
Now the book Party Like a Rockstar, I feel like we've left out one of the craziest stories is the stories of your parents and your biological father, who is Jay Thomas. I mean, I think a lot of people know who Jay was, by actor in the Cheers. Is that what he's best known? I know him from doing radio. I've heard him do lots of radio. But can you share that story, because it's pretty wild? Reconnection.
My birth certificate is an apology from a condom company. It's hanging on the wall in between my gold albums. It brings a tear to your eye, doesn't it? So I was adopted at birth. My parents, Larry and Kendra Harding, I wouldn't trade them for anything in the world. My dad went to Michigan State. He caught a touchdown in the Rose Bowl, people. That's right. I was voted most likely to be the water boy at Grosse Pointe South. But anyway.
I was the runner-up.
Yeah. They never knew who my biological parents were. And, anything like that. And then I met my biological mother when I was in my early 20s, and we talked for a few months on the phone. I never had a longing. There was nothing missing. She wanted to find me. I was curious. And she said, "I want to tell you who your biological father is." And I knew she wasn't kidding. I just knew she wasn't. I was living in Los Angeles at the time. And she said, "He's an actor." And I was like, "What?" And she said, "Yeah, he was on the television show Cheers." So like the Terminator scanning a room for a human, my brain was in overdrive.
You're saying, not Norm, don't be Norm, don't be Norm, don't be Norm.
Exactly. I was going through the cast of Cheers for someone that looked like, and I yelled to my roommate, "I'm going to be rich. My biological dad is Ted Danson." The whole room erupted. And she said, "This is a true story." She said, "No, it's Jay Thomas, who was a big DJ at the time in LA. 1 block from my apartment, 7 stories high on the side of a building. I have a picture of it. was Jay Thomas's face on the body of a woman, and it said, "We apologize for Jay Thomas because he was in a lot of trouble on the radio." Mr. Holland's Opus, the movie was out. Those billboards were everywhere. I mean, it's such a bad movie. I'm surprised Jay didn't write it and star in it. But that's what happened. We were like two long-lost fraternity brothers. He has two sons that I'm best friends with. So it was really the best case scenario. But he hated music. He said Dylan is a moron. The Beatles are hippie freaks. Elvis is a thief of black music. Jay Thomas said to me, "If a song comes to me without a bag of cocaine or money, I ain't playing it." And I was like, okay, then. All right.
Yeah, it's like, so that's why they put me up for adoption.
You've got his inflection a little bit, right, JT?
Oh, my God.
You absolutely. His voice was lower, but you have his inflection a little bit. The pattern.
Isn't that wild? Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, the nurture versus nature, right? Isn't that amazing?
Bizarre, yeah.
Well, and what about the JT? That's his initials. How did that come about?
Yeah,
That's just,
I
mean,
know
your adoptive parents didn't know who your biological dad was, right?
Exactly. And I know this sounds unbelievable. His real name is John Thomas Terrell. My name is John Thomas Harding, but I was named after my grandfather, the Hart, like nothing to do with Jay Thomas. Everyone called him JT his whole life. Now, ML brought this up earlier. Jay thought maybe I was a scammer because he was on a show at that time and I went to see it. And this is in my book. It's great. So Jay sent his buddy out to sit next to me to see if I was a scammer. And in Los Angeles, if maybe people know this, before these shows like Friends or whatever, they have a comedian come out to warm up the audience off camera. This guy was terrible. So I started heckling him. I said, "Dude, your jokes should be told on airplanes. That way the audience can't leave." The crowd was just cracking up. Jay Thomas's buddy, who was a spy, went right backstage. And Jay was like, "Well, what's he doing? What's he doing?" And he said, "Oh, no, that's your son for sure. That's your son."
Oh, wow. When
Now-
did you? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so you developed a strong relationship with your dad. Was he any help getting you breaks? I mean, because he's in the entertainment business, right? He's a DJ.
No.
You're a songwriter. I mean, don't just say, "Hey, Dad, how about help a brother out here?"
No, because I found out quickly that music business doesn't work like that. But what was an incredible help to Jay, what incredible help to me, Jay understood my longing and my passion to be in the spotlight, even though I like music and he did acting. I mean, every time I open the fridge and the light comes on, I sing for 20 seconds, And so that, because, everyone's like, "Oh, why do you want to be a rock star? Who cares? Just go do something else." And I was like, why doesn't anyone understand this? So that was great about meeting Jay, because he really understood what it's like to be in the gauntlet of the music business. And like, I'm not famous and I'm not a TV star, but those were really great conversations. But no, he didn't help at all, but he had big radio shows and he would come on and say, "Listen, give your kids up for adoption, and when they're a success, welcome them back into the family," like I have with JT, because I'd already had a hit song, I think, by the time we met.
Okay.
I have a question for you, JT.
Yeah, go for it.
Did you hear his fabulous Lone Ranger story in person before he told it on David Letterman?
No, because I don't know if I knew that story before that. But what's funny, and once again, it is in my book, I did go with him to David Letterman a few times, and I got thrown out of the show during a taping. That's probably, I don't want to give that story away because I can't explain it as well as I did in the book. But yeah, Jay would take me to the show every Christmas he did, and it was fantastic. But no, I didn't know that story. But I do have pictures of Jay with the big giant white man Bob Ross afro.
Oh, that's
Thank God I have that.
That's awesome.
I know you don't want to give the whole story away, but do you accept today the reason you got kicked out of Letterman? Like, do you understand why? I mean, I don't even know what happened, but do you understand why you were kicked out? And do you still do you think it's bullshit, or was it totally appropriate?
Yeah, I'll tell you part of the story for inquiring minds out there. I caused a little ruckus at the David Letterman show. I wasn't supposed to, and because I was, trying to get noticed. So Jay forbid me to ever contact Letterman or anyone that worked there. I was uninvited forever, Jay said. So I forgot about it. 5 or 6 months later, I was watching David Letterman, and he had a very much older woman on. He was apologizing to the woman because her son was a comedian. I forget his name. His act was so ahead of its time that Letterman had cut that comedian out of the show. And then the guy died. He was a young guy. You probably Google his name. David Letterman was apologizing to his mom. I just got a little chill because he said, "I should have had your son on. It wasn't fair of me to cut him off." So I saw that. So I sat down and wrote David Letterman an apology. I just said, "I see you on TV and you're classy and you're funny. I had no right to interrupt your show." I just mailed it to the David Letterman show in New York, thought it would be lost in the mail. About 5 days later, I get a FedEx package. I held it over the steam like I used to open Christmas presents trying to see what it was because I didn't want to rip what was inside. And it's a letter. I have it hanging on my wall, handwritten from David Letterman. He said, I'm a fan of your father's. You're welcome back anytime. And in the 30 years on television, no one's ever caused a ruckus like that. So we have that between us or something. It meant the world to me. And I would never do it again, but I just love that. Yeah, he wrote me back. I hope this all makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's really cool.
So that's a story worth buying the book for. But JT, you know, obviously you're doing very well. I know from trying to get a book sold, it is almost impossible. So there's a big success there. You've written hit songs. There's a big success there. I imagine you're living pretty well now. But talk to us a little bit about those years where it wasn't so good, because I think one of the real values of this book is it's really easy to see people at the top of the mountain, but nobody really thinks about or talks about how many times you tried to summit it and fell down and then had to get back up and try again. And a lot of people keep climbing and never make it to the top. But you are here both to share your story, but I think also to inspire and to give people, you know, a little jolt of perseverance.
Yeah, well, you're so right. I mean, anything, whether you're a lawyer or a plumber or working at a hospital, I mean, it all takes a lot of work. I moved out to LA. I never had any money. I always had a job. And so you know what I would do? I would go down to Ralph's grocery store. I would get this big thing of generic mayonnaise and generic tuna fish and a loaf of bread the size of a water ski. And then my roommate and I would dump all the mayonnaise in the garbage bag and dump all the tuna fish. We took the shelves out of this old refrigerator. And then anytime I was hungry, I would take 2 pieces of bread and scoop out the tuna fish from the garbage bag. The garbage bag was clean, and I would eat tuna fish sandwiches for night after night. It's amazing. I still love sushi. And yeah, I just worked any job I could. I worked at the Chinese theater. I worked at yogurt places. I worked for bands. I just had something in me. I just did not want to give up. And you just have to keep going, you know, and you have to give, if you're trying to get into the music business, you have to give everything to it because there's so many people that want it. If you don't put everything else, if you don't put it in front of everything else, someone else in line is just going to do it. But that's another reason why I love Nashville. It's an incredibly nurturing city. Everyone helps each other. We're competitive, but there's songwriters that are playing open mic nights literally at like the Burger King or at empty bars or somewhere with Tim McGraw and Garth Brooks, but everyone gets along. Everyone gives each other advice. It's incredible. I say about when I was in LA, I felt like God picked up America like a bath mat and shook it, and everyone sane hung on. Everyone else like me landed in LA. You know, everyone out there was just on the climb and full of ego. So it's great to be in Nashville. It's a small town in a big city, I like to say.
What was the lowest point for you?
This podcast, actually.
Great answer.
Well, again, David Hall, Luke Nowacki, The Butchery, you know, you give them your business, but this JT Harding guy, just screw that book. Forget it.
Yeah. All right. So listen, for me, losing a record deal was beyond heartbreaking. I didn't know that record companies sign people, make records. I made a record in New York City. I was broke. I get flown to New York. I make a record with John Mellencamp's band. They didn't put it out. I was heartbroken, but I got back up on the horse, worked for Rockstar. But my lowest point, the great band, Linkin Park, they're so nice. They're so great. I'm their assistant. They're really low maintenance. They're all happily married, and they know that I'm a songwriter. I never talked to them about my music. I know that that's not the way to do it, but they had a record label. That's why I was working for them. They decided to let me open up for them. So I'm in Kansas. I'll never forget it. It was the band, I think, Slipknot with all the masks on. And boy, when they took their masks off, I realized why they wore the masks. And then with Linkin Park, and I went on before them. I went on in between those two bands with an acoustic guitar. Exactly. And I got to tell you, if you're listening out there, people, if you've never stood on stage in a bright white spotlight holding a guitar and heard 30,000 people screaming, "You suck," it's quite an experience. You know, it gives you chills. Anything not tied down was being thrown at me. And so I said to the crowd, I was like, all right, hang on a second. Do you people like Ozzy Osbourne? They were like, ah. I said, all right. Here's a little Joan Osborne. What if God was? It freaking rained hell on me. A quarter hit me in the eye, and this picture's in my book. I wish I had it here. I'm bleeding. There's blood rushing down. The crowd starts cheering. I think I'm winning them over. Little did I know that Chester Bennington from Linkin Park had walked out on stage behind me, and everyone's going crazy now for him. He puts his arm around me and he's kind of laughing like, the first time we both got drunk and I'm bleeding, and he takes me off the stage. And I got, a couple stitches, and he scolded the audience, which he didn't have to. But I looked in the mirror. I was like looking at a funhouse mirror. I was so out of it. And I thought to myself, what am I doing? That, I think, was my lowest point. But here's the thing. The next day in the newspaper, a huge picture of Chester and I'm bleeding. And a little paragraph said, despite bleeding from the head, a one-man band called JTX, despite bleeding from the head, finished a promising 3-song set. And somebody saw that article, and that's how I ended up getting my writing deal in Nashville. So all of these failures just keep adding up to pushing you towards your dreams. So I'm glad I didn't lose an eye, man. I'd be like, Kid Rock's new DJ with the eye patch,
Wow. And Chester, man, it just seemed like an incredible guy. All the stories about him, of course, committed suicide, which is just horribly sad, but it's kind of those pitfalls, I guess, of the music industry, which, have you been able to avoid those? I mean, you've probably seen a bunch of them around you, I would think.
Yeah, I used to have a drug problem, but now I can afford it. No, just kidding. I don't know. I've had disappointments, but no really other problems or anything. And Chester was so kind, and I don't know what he was going through. I can't even really comment on that. That was after my time, but I've just always said, all right, I got to get up again. I got to keep going. I've definitely taken breaks. And listen, when I was in 8th grade in the Battle of Bands, I was like, look out, world, here I come. I'm going to destroy everybody with my posing and my pouting and Grosse Pointe. But definitely from 20 to 35, I was like, man, is this ever going to happen? So it's easy now to laugh about it, but many nights where I was like, wow, is this ever going to happen? But I'm real fortunate. And it wouldn't have happened if I didn't grow up in Michigan, seeing everybody work really hard, having all the great music. Now on everybody's iPad, they have every group ever. But I think Detroit was one of the first cities that had a rap station, a pop station, a country station, 3 rock stations all on the dial. People forget that, the Electrifying Mojo was the first DJ to ever play Prince on pop radio. I mean, think of that. So growing up in Detroit had all... I wouldn't, Howard Stern started there. I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't grow up in Detroit. I'll tell you that.
JT, I have a question for you. Getting back to your family for a second. How did your parents handle the relationship you developed with your biological parents?
Sean, that's a great question. They were incredibly welcoming of it. I found out my brother Lance, who's great, in the book, he goes by his Native American name, Dances with Vodka. He was worried I wasn't going to come home for Christmas. And if they were worried about it, they didn't tell me. And then once they met Jay and met his kids and his wife, he's been remarried. He's been married 4 times. I couldn't ask him for any money. He'd given it all away. So everyone got along like gangbusters. And I just told my parents over and over, they would never, nothing could ever replace them. Jay and I were like long lost buddies. It's just like the 3 of you. It was just like buddies like that. But it's a great question.
We're buddies.
And a lot of people that have been adopted write me on Facebook, ask for advice, or they don't have a good situation. So it's pretty incredible how many people, the stories that it opens up.
And JT, I think one of the stories that we talked about before we went on the air is when Larry, your adoptive father, died, Jay did the eulogy, right? I mean, so that's a pretty strong bond, and that shows a lot of how big both of those men were. That someone could let somebody else into their son's life who might be a threat, and then the guy who found out that somebody else helped make their son the man he is. That when he died, even though he was a big deal, he took the time to come and pay tribute to him. There's a lot of inspiring stories in this book, and it's not just about success and some great anecdotes, although it's full of those. I think there's a lot of pages in here that if you find yourself struggling, and as I'm trying to get back on track, I find myself struggling, and just listen to what you're talking about, I'm actually kind of thinking I maybe need a couple more failures because, I mean, seriously, shit doesn't come easy. Good stuff doesn't come easy. The stuff that other people can't do, that people do, it's only because they've been knocked down and they got up.
Yeah, exactly. And also, so going back, Jay, it was the first phone call I made when my dad passed away, which probably surprised me as well. And it's so funny that there was like the funeral was packed like a clown car. Everyone my dad ever knew was there. And this lady, a couple pews behind us when Jay got up to speak, and Jay and I were going on all these TV shows, acting crazy as part of the David Letterman story. And this lady behind us whispered, "The Hardings hired an actor for the funeral. This family doesn't miss a trick." And it's kind of like, how did she not know that, Jay and I were connected? But it was very sweet. He said great things. And yeah, exactly. And fast forwarding, it never gets easier. I don't go back to Nashville today and all the doors are open. And everyone's like, let's just record a JT Harding song. I still have to try to write the best song in town that day. Who even knows what that song is going to be? So, or even putting a book out. It's like, hey man, let's get some promotion. Let me call ML. Let me talk to these people. Yeah. Once you're having some success, you just have to keep, pushing the gas. I guess that's just the way that the world works, but it's fun,
Yeah, well, now you're guaranteed a bestseller since you talked your way onto this show.
Yes.
It's all gravy from here, son. So
I
if you
can't
want
wait to see the kids at Defer Elementary, Bananas Magazine or Party Like a Rock Star. Yeah.
Do you want Dynamite or Highlights? Which one are you going to get from the Scholastic Book Club? When I was growing up, we were poor as hell. But the one thing my mom always said is, when that Scholastic Book Club came along, you can get as many books as you like, and we'd always get Dynamite.
It was so exciting waiting for them. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I have a copy of Dynamite Magazine with Mork and Mindy on it, with Mork, and guess who's standing next to him on the cover? And I had it when I was a kid.
Jay Thomas.
Jay Thomas, yeah. We need some graphics for this podcast.
I know. Well, the funny thing is, too, so after I met JT, he said, "Oh, can you find that picture you took?" And I thought, shit, man, I don't think they have an archives at Grosse Pointe South High School from 1985. And I said, I'll look around. And I thought, this is never going to happen. Well, then we got hit by the flood. And so as we're taking stuff out of the basement, I'm going through all these boxes of shit that I wouldn't have looked through until, actually probably my kids would have looked through if they even looked through them when I died. And there was the picture in there, along with some other pictures of Dirty Tricks and some pictures I shot of John Lowry, who's now John 5, who it turns out had played in a band with JT. He also played in a band with my brother. And they used to gig at this bowling alley, which on Sunday nights would be called the Falcon Rock Fortress. Can you give us a Falcon story before we let people know how they can see you when you come to Detroit and how they can buy your book?
I would love it. I'm listening to Wheels or WRF. The Falcon Rock Fortress. Then I see the ad in the paper, this eagle with guitars in its feet. I'm only in 8th grade, but we won the Battle of Bands, so we figured out somehow to get a gig at the Falcon Rock Fortress. My mom has to take us there to get us in. We pull up, and it says Falcon Lanes, and like the L is blinking like the sun is too bright. And, I'm like, this is a bowling alley? So we go into the backstage. The couch looked like it had chicken pox. There were so many cigarette burns in it. And you could smell like beer. The other band had already set up on the stage, so we played on the floor. Now, of course, at the time, it felt like Madison Square Garden to me. But I was a little bit shocked that it was a bowling alley, the Falcon Lanes. I'm like, I thought it was going to be a castle from like an Yngwie Malmsteen video. But we played it and it was great and it was fantastic. And I got in a little, like I said, I was in 8th grade or something. I got in a little scuffle with not fighting, of course, with the band, the grown up band that were hairspraying their receding hairlines, and I got in a little trouble with them at that gig too, which was fun. So that's in the book. And you know what? They were probably great guys. Here's what their band was called. You guys probably remember them. Wizard.
Wow. Not Figures on a Beach. It was Wizard. Okay.
No. It wasn't Second Self. Gosh, I'm still trying to grow my hair like Andy Nera. That guy was a hero in high school.
Now, where was the Falcon? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember, but it was definitely on the highway a little ways. Yeah. I have no idea.
Yeah, it was a tough play. They had high school bands. I mean, there's these stories and more. And of course, when you see JT live, you're going to have a lot more stories, a chance to interact with him, a chance to get his book.
It would be so great if we found out that the ghoul was ML's real father. Wouldn't that be great?
Okay.
There's a lot of similarities there.
Yes, my real father is a horror show, but he was never on TV. So we'll do that for another episode. So Friday, March 4th, 8 p.m., 20 Front Street in Lake Orion for $20. You can come see JT, hear some stories, buy his book. You can find out more about that gig at 248-783-7105. Their website is 20frontstreet.com. That's one word. We will have a link to that on our website, which is mlsoulofdetroit.com. Or come out and see me, if I can get a ticket, at the Caju Cafe. I got to buy one because they're selling fast. This gig, you'll get to see JT and you'll get a book. That's 8 p.m. on Saturday, March 5th at the Caju Cafe. That's on Caju, not too far from where we grew up in. It's in Detroit. It's an East Side institution. They have some lanes too, but they're for feather bowling, not for big ball bowling.
The only thing louder than the bowling will be my jacket. Hey, you know what? Also, the 20 Front Street in Lake Orion, if you haven't been there, it's an incredible venue. It's very small, almost like church pews, but it'll be a wild, fun rock show. But all the money, the $20, goes to 20 Front Street because I know that the quarantine and all that was very hard on them, so I can't wait to get there. I'll be singing all the hit songs I've written, like on an acoustic guitar with a couple of buddies backing me up. And the book will be there. Same thing at Caju Cafe. But I just, I'm so glad that these venues are still open, and I'm so excited to be back.
Can you work a Joan Osborne song in there for us?
Yeah, well, that's the only song of hers I know. Hey, you know what? Better king for a day than schmuck for a lifetime, I say, you know.
I'm on the latter track, so I'm glad you're on the former track. So, JT.
Thanks so much for having me, all you guys.
That's great. We're looking forward to seeing you when you get back in town. The name of the book is Party Like a Rock Star, The Crazy, Coincidental, Hard Luck, and Harmonious Life of a Songwriter by our own JT Harding. JT, great to see you again, and we will see you at the Caju and on Front Street. That's March 4th and March 5th. That's a Friday and a Saturday. Come on, make plans, get out there, support these places.
Mark, thank you very much. And you'll know my book because the font on it and on the spine are replicas of WRIF stickers, baby. How can I not? Hey, guys, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for keeping the music and all the good vibes alive on the soul of Detroit.
Thanks, JT.
Thank you.
There you go.
Oh, man, the geeks have inherited the earth.
Did I do that?
What a dork.
Does him wanting to play with us again mean that he's turning into a geek, or we're turning into cool guys?
So even back in high school when JT definitely had kind of that rocker look in his eye, you know, sort of, you know, like, hey, man, kind of edgy, kind of punky in a place where the Preppy Handbook was like a Bible, he was always still a super nice dude, like a very easy guy to deal with, not standoffish or anything. So it's really great to see him having all this success. Although I must say I've never seen him quite that hyper.
What a story, though, man.
Oh, yeah. Well,
a hustler.
We scratched the surface, man.
Yeah,
those stories are great. I especially like that he clapped after his own stories.
Like he said, man, if somebody's going to clap.
Yeah, I think so too.
So
I think you should start doing that.
Now he just pats himself on the back.
No, every time I speak,
well, that's more of a metaphor, yeah.
Every time I speak, I hear applause. I thought that was understood, and I feel a little perspiration from the angels weeping. But you know, so one of my daughters who you know gets uptight about stuff, she's like one of these crazy people who gets uptight about stuff, but then when she gets on stage, it's like a revelation. She did some stand-up in a talent show one time, and she told everybody to get up and start clapping. That was the first joke she told. People didn't really realize it at the time. And she said, well, great, no matter what happens, I can tell people I got a standing ovation at this gig.
That's a good way to start.
So sometimes, you know, you got to get the applause however you can get it. You do. So yeah, 30,000 people telling you suck.
It's like pushing the car before you pop the clutch.
Who put him between Slipknot and Linkin Park and thought that was a good idea?
With a string guitar.
I could have told you that would have been the crowd would not have liked that.
Maybe Linkin Park was a little, you know, mean-spirited. Maybe this was all part of a prank.
Chester saved him, though.
Maybe he was trying to play acoustic music in front of an audience that wanted Ozzy Osbourne.
That's exactly what it was, yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I can compete with that story, except I haven't quite had 30,000 people tell me I suck.
I don't think that's manly enough, right?
It's much smaller groups.
That's what it comes down to.
So, a different type of music.
Yeah. Well, anyways, we are at our Geek of the Week, and Robin Folsom is our geek this week. Now, you probably don't know about Robin, but you may have heard her story because colleagues were preparing to congratulate her on her latest bundle of joy when something very strange happened. One of her colleagues said, hey, that baby bump, it looks like it's like detached from your body.
Oh.
Yeah. So this was not a preemie. This was a hustle. And so they reported she's a state employee. It appears that she was trying to tap into some paid family leave. And so they reported it. And then the inspector general started digging around. And then they said, oh, hey, wait a minute. you've been showing some pictures of your other baby. And then they said, well, wait a minute. The pictures appear to be inconsistent and depict children with various skin tones. So it looks like
Oh, man.
her other baby wasn't really her other baby, and she didn't even bother getting the same picture of her other not real baby.
Where did she share them? On social media? Why even bother?
Yeah, I think it was just something that she probably passed around. People said, how's the kid? Because it's sort of like these people have the fake cancer scares. At some point, you either have to die or be cured. And if you're cured, you probably have to have some pictures of yourself bald and skinny and going to chemo. So it's like I guess it's literally a proof of life thing. So she had to keep up this artifice that she'd already had a kid. And no one really probably paid too much attention until they realized, oh, wait a minute, she's not having this kid. I wonder about those other kids. And
idiot.
I imagine people got together and say, hey, wait, oh, yeah. And then, there's always when a scammer starts to be revealed, people start saying, oh, yes. And
then you connect all the dots.
Yeah, and it turns out.
How much trouble is this lady in?
Well, it turns out that, really neighbors did figure that guy next door was a serial killer. You just haven't talked to enough neighbors. Or the neighbors don't want to be candid because they're like, until this guy's convicted and put away for life, I'm not going to tell people about the missing cats in the neighborhood. Well, she is in a shitload of trouble because on February 10th, a Fulton County grand jury, that's in Georgia, indicted Folsom on 3 felony counts of making false statements and 1 felony count of identity fraud, which is weird. Did she identify? Did she fraudulently identify a pregnant woman, or is it because maybe the other baby got benefits? I'm not really sure what happened there. But she's facing a maximum, and get this, folks who would like to get some extra time off, some extra paid time off. She's facing up to 25 years in prison and up to $103,000 in fines. I think the extra $3,000 is just because they can. That's a weird number to come up with. But if she's found guilty of all these charges, she'll be getting some time off at our expense, but it will be in the big house and not in the baby's nursery. So Robin Folsom, you, who may be singing the Folsom Prison Blues, are our Geek of the Week.
There's an all-night party in room 7609. And you can dance together all night if you've got the time.
So, we like to invite people to nominate songs for Room 7609, where we take a look at new wave bands that had a great tune that maybe you missed, or bands that you overlooked in the first place. And JT, he's our resident music expert, so who's to argue with JT? This week, he suggests that we play China by Red Rider, and afterwards, we're going to debate the merits of this as a new wave song. But remember, JT knows what he's talking about.